This is Paul Turner, the immigration barrister at Imperium Chambers. Good afternoon and thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button as I'm aiming for 4,000 viewers in the next month or so. I'm coming back to the issue of amnesty and asking Boris Johnson when he intends to apply or inform or create some form of amnesty. The government in this case seems to be living in another world, really. Priti Patel tries to lock people up, or plans to, in little more than portacabins during the coronavirus pandemic, and putting people into what are effectively COVID concentration camps to show how tough she is, while planning to effectively cause people to risk the risk of drowning in the English Channel. While she's doing that, her boss, or apparent boss, says he's pro-migrant and proud to be the descendant of Turkish migrants. But put bluntly, there's no possibility of any Turk coming up to the United Kingdom and getting a job as a Prime Minister without anything more. However, Boris seems to be more in tune with the public than Priti Patel, as apparently less than half the public wants a reduction in immigration to the United Kingdom. Now, this is a huge change because in 2015, more than 67% wanted fewer migrants. Now it's dropped to 49%, or rather less than half the population in the last 5 years. It is clear that the British public, whom this government is bound to serve and ought to represent, now favour more migration, or at the very least have changed their views very significantly over the last 5 years. Yet, during this time, Boris Johnson's government, which is a very populist government, given his jovial little speeches, has taken an increasingly hard-line approach to immigration, frequently using such language as illegal immigrants when they're really asylum seekers who are entitled to status, frequently describing asylum lawyers as being activist lawyers or people that are preying on the state to earn a living, which in reality is not much of a living for a lot of people. Indeed, a lot of very good firms were forced to shut down as a result of the government cutting back heavily on legal aid, thus denying people the best possible representation. Ironically, the madder the ideas of Priti Patel, the greater the sympathy in the British public for migrants. I cannot think of a Secretary of State who has had more critical reports in over 22 years of practice. How she remains in a job, especially after being found a bully and having had to leave once, is truly amazing and a damning indictment on Boris's government or his control of his government. It follows that, as Boris has said repeatedly, I think some 12 times or so, in favour of a migrant, an amnesty for migrants, rather than the increasingly right-wing and insane ideas, that the time is now right for a general amnesty. After all, if the government could give an amnesty to allow undocumented migrants to be vaccinated, it shouldn't be too hard to create another legacy or amnesty scheme that existed between 2006 and 2011 and dealt with about 500,000 cases. This is particularly true given that there is no way on earth, and I think the government accepts it, that the Home Office will ever remove the 1.5 million or so undocumented migrants in the United Kingdom. Therefore, they should be, as the Prime Minister said, allowed to live with dignity and contribute to the United Kingdom. This is particularly true because there was an independent report recently that said that where there was more migration, there was increased economic growth in the area. Just what is Boris waiting for? Even the ex-Tory Immigration Minister, Caroline Nokes, has condemned the government's approach, calling it inhumane. It's bad news when your old immigration minister thinks that your new policies are inhumane. This poll happily confirms that the majority of British people, the public, are as warm-hearted as ever. It remains to see whether the government will listen to the public or will lurch even more to the right to pander to right-wing votes. As I've mentioned, the sad thing is that Boris has continually spoken out in favour of an amnesty, and when he was Prime Minister and asked in 2019, said he was the matter was being looked at. Well, you've had now 2 years, Boris. So why not, if you can include undocumented migrants for the vaccination programme, why not restart the legacy scheme and process the backlog of undocumented migrants in the United Kingdom? Evidence shows that economic growth follows migrants. So why not let them contribute to the economy properly rather than living a life where they are subject to the hostile environment, which has been criticised by numerous bodies and the government really haven't been able to justify. So this is yet again another plea for different reasons. This being the fact that the British public actually have lost faith in the government's policies and support no longer favour stringent and even ever tougher policies in removing people. So if the British public have changed their view, perhaps it's time for the government to actually recognise this and act. And if it was my view, I would say they should act promptly, especially given the fact that we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. It puts another slant on why there should be an amnesty. It's not just lefty lawyers and activists that are in favour of migration. It tends to be that the British public have moved significantly as well in favour of migration. And the government, as they represent the British public, ought to carry out the will of the public. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will continue to campaign on behalf of this, and please subscribe to my channel. If you or any member of your family has an immigration problem, please feel free to get in touch with me and I'll do my best to help you. Again, thank you for watching. This is Paul Turner, the immigration barrister at Imperium Chambers.